So in order to know that whether the service is running or not, you can do simply go to the services on your PC and see a MySQL service whether it's running. That's the simplest way. So either you can go to the control panel and go settings and control panels, and that's too long way actually. So what I'm going to tell you the shortcut way to open a services, you can just right click on your start menu and then say run and type here services.msc. That's the one. This will this will fire services to open instantly from the command prompt, the run window actually. So when I click services.msc and press OK, the services are loading here. So these are all the services under your PC, and some are running, some are not running, some are stopped, and some are not started yet. And there are something called manual services, some are automatic, some are disabled. So we don't need to think much about it because that's not the main concern of this session. So what you have to do, you have to just search MySQL. You just type, click any of this item and type just MySQL, something like this, my MySQ, something like that, and immediately it's highlighting the services here. And now currently the services is running. Let's say I'm going to stop the service. So I stopped this service. Now, when I start my SQL workbench from here or from somewhere else, I mean, I'm not, okay, maybe I did not add it to the bar here because I just added to the taskbar here. So when I click this one, it's loading the workbench, but it cannot start the server. This is my local instance. Actually, here, whenever you create an SQL workbench, you can create your own instance of MySQL database. You can install multiple instances of that. I will let you know that later on what's the use of these multiple instances. But currently, whenever you install, there will be one local instance, and this will not run because opening SQL editor because the service is down. So this is most of us, we had a problem. See, no connection established because the service is down. So very simply, uh, to be very accurate before we start working, better to go to that service, as I told you, right? Services.msc in the run command and search for MySQL and mys, so it comes immediately, and make sure that it's not running actually. So what I'm going to do now, right click on the service and click start. So that's the time the service has started already and showing you it's running. So that's it. After that, once it's running, so very sure that the MySQL instance will be connected to your American. So when I click it, you see that just second, matter of second, when I click it, immediately started, and then the things came up. So this is the query window. You know that already, right? I'm going to make the screen bigger so you can see it. I hope you can see this text size. Is it right? So now the teacher told you, actually taught us that administrative area, it's here that we are not going to work much in this area. Here, this is a schema. It's one that will help you to identify the databases, tables, and everything. And the other area, we will see just by starting working on it, we will know a simple thing. Now, this is the database that we created in the last session. So I'm going to delete this database, drop schema, and then drop now. So the database that I created in the last week's session is deleted over. So very simple thing actually. What we are doing here, we are going to use a structured query language to create a database, to create a tables, and insert the data, updating the data, or manipulating the data for whatever it is. For example, if we want to create a view, if we want to create, let's say the table contains multiple records. For example, if we take employee table might have a different attributes, right? Like employee ID and employee name, employee address, maybe some salary details, for example, for the meantime. So if there is a lot of records, let's say you want to see only the name and the ID. So also you can write a select query to display only those two fields. That's very important also later on when you write programs. You have to take only the data that is required by you. So these all things we are going to see it in the SQL queries. So we don't like to, we can do that by the way. You can For example, I have a database here called employee. I just click that, and if I want to see the table, I can click expand the table, and I have a lot of tables inside. Let's say if you want to enter the data inside this title table, you can still do that. For example, uh, select rows. This is actually the query window that's generating the query for you automatically. So if you right click that, I cannot show you where can you edit the data instead directly. But anyhow, I will we will see that other query. So I never use this much, but okay, anyhow. So now basically what we are going to do now, this is my existing database. So I'm going to show you how to create a database. And before that, we have to write our queries that we have to take a new document, which is create new SQL tab. This is the one. It's creating a new file here for you to work. So SQL file 3, it doesn't matter with the name. Automatically, if I open another one, it's actually say that SQL file 4. And if you click one more, just it's identifying sequence numbers. Actually, it's creating a sequence number for you, just to show that this file is different than the other one, nothing else. Now, initially, we all know that if you want to create a database, very simple. The query that you have to issue is create database and the database name. So you can call it any name. For example, my testing database. Okay. So now I'm going to execute this command. Many people also facing an issue how to execute this, right? For example, execute it by this energy sign. Execute the selected portions of the script. This one, when you hover the mouse here, saying to you execute the selected portion of the script or everything. So now if you click this one, if you highlight this one, what will happen? Only the highlighted part will be executed by this. But if you don't highlight any of them, everything will be executed. Let's say if you write 10 lines doing different tasks, if you don't highlight select any of them, when you execute it, it will execute the entire file. Maybe it might contain 10 instruction or 20 instruction or 40 instruction. All of them will be executed. But if you highlight a particular portion, what will happen? That only this portion will be executed. Also, you can use it with a shortcut. If you want to say Control Enter, if you normally press Enter, then go to the next line, right? Just moving to the new line. Now from here, if you want to execute only this line, either you can select all of them and execute it, or end for some anywhere. Just keep it and press Control Enter. That's the time it will be executed. How do you know that it's executed? It's showing here in this area. Create a database, my testing database. It's automatically created. Now, this morning, some people sent a message to me that, see, I have an error. What is the error? This is the error. Create a database, my testing database. Why it's giving an error? So can someone tell me that? Why it's giving an error now? Just a while ago, I mean, second ago actually, it's created actually. 10 seconds ago. And then when I create it again, saying that the database error code can't create a database, my testing database exists. Yes, this session is recording, yeah. So we can take a rest and watch it later, no issues. Okay. Why my size went back again? Okay. So what happened actually, once you execute this task, what this query is doing is creating a database in this area. So you cannot see my testing database because the instance here in the window on the left side is created. That's what do you call that? It's populated before we before we execute this query. So now after you execute the query and see this message saying create database, my testing database is successful, because the green color icon shows you that successful and the red one is saying that there is error. So now I'm going to refresh it here to see the updates, whatever we did. Just I'm going to refresh that. So as soon as I refresh, you can see all the databases that you created just now. So I created one database called my testing database. Under that, there are tables, views, procedures, and functions, but nothing is there. For example, if I go to the employee, the table has expandable options here, right? The view has expandable option. I can create a table and views, and it can show you. When I click department table, there are columns. In this case, the database that we created just now, there's no arrow keys because we don't create any tables, views, procedures, and functions. Nothing is there. So it's just an empty database. Now, if I try to create this database one more time, definitely there will be error because it's already existing. Now, when I select this one and execute it, I get an error message because I cannot execute this line again because the object is already created and it's existing. Now, if I want to see a success message, what I have to do, at least I have to erase that, drop the schema and drop now. So the database is deleted. Now, if we execute that, we will get a successful message. So we create the database only one time. Okay, we create the database only on one time. So in that case, this message, this part should not be executed again. That's it. So now either to protect me from the errors, see, I'm going to clear the error messages here. Yes, clear here. So it's, everything is cleared now. So I don't want to confuse myself. Everything is cleared here. Now, in this database, see, you remember that, right? That the teacher told us that to use the semicolon at the end of the query because that's explain. It's giving instruction to the executing things that this is the end of the query, so nothing follows after this. This is one statement creating database. Now, before we come to create the database, I want to tell you that how to decide, how to get the names, and how to do the naming and how to type the commands and everything. Everything usually there are naming convention. We have to follow the standard naming rules. That's very important. Since MySQL is not case sensitive, we can issue the commands like create this one or create. These are the same actually. So it's identifying both of them in a color the same blue colors. That means they are the same thing. But still, I don't personally prefer this area because if you want to type create, then you have to caps lock it and type it right. And then once you come to the like other states and everything, it's very difficult for you. So it's much better to follow everything on a simple case. It's my personal opinion, and also that's a standard way. But if you like, you can follow. Some places like, for example, if they tell you that use a capital and this one, so it's up to you to follow. But I'm going to follow a simple characters. The second thing that you see, my database, my testing database, it looks messy here. It's not nice. So normally naming convention, for example, if I want to call my database, my testing database, for example, we have a different way of naming it. Usually, once it comes to the database, we can create it something like my testing database, for example. So this is one method. What is that method? I have a 3 word in my one word, which is my and testing and database, for example. So every first character of a word, I'm making it capital. This is one way of naming. So this is a standard practice that if you want to do that, you can do it like this. It's much easier for the person who is coming after you and taking it. Okay, great. My testing database, the first character of my is capital and testing is T capital and database D capital. This is one way. Or if we don't want to capital and simple to mix, there is another way. Simply my underscore testing underscore database. This is also another way to create a database. So I actually this is also okay, and this is also standard practice. So I am going to follow this method because this is much easier for me to read. So I know that my testing database is very clearly, it's very pretty straight. And this one, it's okay, but it's not so clear than this, okay, according to my concept. Now, some people, they create variables like this, my testing, this one. So this is not wrong actually. This is the right too. But the best way is either follow one of the standard way, right? For example, not only the person, not only you going to write this program and forever you are going to maintain this. Now, you will write a program, you will work today in this company, tomorrow you might work in a different company. So they don't care about you. As long as you stay here, you will maintain that. But after that, somebody else will come. As long as if you stick with the standard method, that will be very helpful for it. So in this tutorial, I'm going to use this method, my underscore testing underscore database method. Okay. So there's no right and wrong in this case. Everything is right, but it's better to follow one standard method. So now I'm going to create a database, but usually for the database, they don't put something like this. It's too much odd because the database name has to be short always. So I'm going to say testing DB, testing DB, for example. That's simple name. I don't like to put underscore. It's a database name, but later on when it comes to table, I'm going to use that method. So now I'm going to create this database. Either I can just, now since it's only one line, I can just simply execute, or if you want you can just highlight and execute, or if you just keep it, if you don't want to use the mouse to move up and down, just press Control Enter, so that will be executed. So now it's done, the create database is done. Now let's say now we are not going to create it again anymore. So if you don't like to keep this code, you cannot erase it because sometimes they will ask you, okay, give me the code. How did you create the database? So you have to give this code. So I'm going to, I don't know how to comment it in my SQL. Ah, great. Okay, this is how they comment it. Okay, dash dash space. So that's commented already. Now let's say how to make sure that's commented. I'm going to execute that. So nothing happened. That means this line. See, I'm going to enter it. Nothing happened. There's no error messages, right? If the line is executed, what will happen definitely. Now see, I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to run it. So that's executing because I did not highlight until the commented line. So now if I highlight this, it's a valid SQL query. So that when I execute it, it's executing it and giving you an error message saying that the database already exists. You cannot create it anymore. Now, if I highlight until the beginning and execute it, it won't do anything. To make sure that just better to clear the results that we get it here, and just highlight all of them and I'm going to execute it. Nothing happened because it's commented line. Okay, so it's very clear. So for the meantime, not to make this mistake, I'm going to comment it. But at last, when you submit your answers or something, just uncomment it back and show it to them that this is how I created a database. So I think it's not difficult for you, right? Now I'm going to refresh this one and I got my uh, testing DB. Okay, I'm going to my test, I'm going to delete it, drop the schema, and testing DB. I'm going to drop the schema as well. I'm going to execute it again one more time and then refresh it. See, now here, the good thing what happened here, you see what happened? We created a database called testing DB. The T is capital and the DB is capital. But what MySQL is doing it's just converting everything to a simple case. So see the a testing DB is a normal. It's not. There's nothing is capital here. So that's why I also recommend it also better to use a simple characters. Right. So we created a database now. Now you just think generally we can simply think that we here there are 4 databases. How do you sure that in which database you are on, right? For example, I'm going to create a table. Where should I create a table? I have to target a database, right? I have to create a table inside a database. So from here I do not know that when I created the table it will go to what database. I have no idea where it's going to go, right? For this one, to make sure or switch the database to somewhere else, for example, if I want to target the employees table, what I have to do simply use employees. Then I'm going to put the command. Now I'm going to execute this, see, it's saying use employees table and 0 was affected. So now I change my current database to employees that's highlighted already in a black mark here. That means you are working on employees table. To make sure that, I'm going to change it now. I'm going to say testing DB. I'm going to execute that. Now you can see that you are working on a testing DB and that is folded here, not the employee one. So now you know that where are you, right? And you see, so now it's a very good practice for you. It's a very good explanation that is saying the database name should be simple name, not the capital one, because even though you put a capital or mix of capital in the simple, the MySQL is changing to everything to simple characters and making it. So better not to try it. So in that case, if you want to see very clearly, fine, go for it. Go for understand. So I'm going to delete this top schema. I drop it and I'm going to create this one. I'm going to refresh this one. So that's very clear. Testing DB, for example, it's fine. But as long as the database name is short, it's great. Don't make it like I am testing a database, this. No, that's too much. It's too lengthy. So make it short and sweet. Right. So now I'm going to use this database. So currently I'm not in any databases. You see that? You notice that, right? I am not in any databases here because nothing is highlighted and nothing is expanded. Anyhow, this is expanded, but nothing is highlighted here. So much better to choose use database and press enter. I'm going to make it a more bigger font, so it's still very easy to see. Okay, good. So I change my current working database to testing DB. Okay, it's clear, right? It's all clear until this point. So now these two lines are executed over. Now let's see how to create a table. Everyone knows that very simple, right? Creating table just a plain like straightforward English text. I'm going to say create table and then the table name. For example, I'm going to create what do you call that? For example, a department. So they advise you to put capital D department or it's up to you. Okay, so we will just use the first letter capital. And also there is another that's kind of practice that usually the database names comes in the plural. So I'm going to say departments. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. Is it a department or departments? I'm going to use departments, create table departments, and then immediately open bracket and then close bracket. This is the simple method of doing it. In end of the query, then you have to put the semicolon. So in between these two brackets, you have to write the column names. That's very simple. So I'm going to create, let's say I'm planning now to have a department ID and department name. For the meantime, ID and name, only two columns, for example. So I'm going to say department underscore ID, which will be integer type, okay? And then I say okay, primary, okay? And then I say comma and go to the next column. I'm going to say department name. The name is not, it's up to you completely actually. You can decide, okay, I want this one, I want a different way, I want a capital, I want a simple, but actually, and there is also another type of ways, like for example, department name. This is also a method, standard method as well. They use it like for example in the Flutter and Dart and other languages. I'm not sure about it, but in Flutter and Dart they do that. So starting with a simple and every first character of a word will be capital. So it's completely up to you, but I strongly recommend you just to use a simple things underscore with underscore. So department name, and this can be varchar and say I'm going to say 50 characters. So now I'm going to create a table. Why there is error message here, missing key or a primary key. I forget that to put the primary key, so it will be a primary key. So you know that, right? So if we have a primary key attribute, and that will be bolded and underlined. So in this case, this will be there. a primary key here. So I'm creating a simple table called create table departments and open curly open bracket, just open bracket and close bracket. In between this, you can add attributes or call it columns. So now I'm going to add one more column, department name, and for example, department location, for example. So I'm going to say where location can be a 30 character. I'm the one designing that. But what I'm going to insert that, for example, a department ID, it's look like, for example, 1, 2, 3. This is an example video. It's not a scheme actually. What I'm showing you here just an example videos. And the department name can be, for example, engineering, right? Engineering or any department like IT department, for example, IT, some videos, and the department location, for example, building number 5, for example. So this is for example. So you are the one deciding that this will be containing an integer type value. That's why I call it integer type. And here engineering IT, that's of course it's string or character type, string type, right? It should be like this. So I plan to put it as a variable character that can accept strings, and building number is still again it's a string. So I decided also to put a varchar, but I am expecting the location length of the location not exceeding 30 characters. So I make it 30 and then 50. And do you know the reason why we are allocating 50, 30, 20, and other numbers? Because here, what happened, the database, it doesn't matter. Since it's a variable character, we should know the data types of SQL or MySQL one. The thing is, like variable character, when you say 50, it means this name, department name, for example, it can contain a value called IT. Okay, IT. This is a data inside the department name. It can be IT, or it can be like what I say to you, engineering, for example. Okay, so in this case, what happened? This value is just occupying 2 characters, right? And this value is occupying maybe 10 characters, for example. So this one, the department name can contain any of them. Fine, it's okay. But it will allocate. It's not allocating actually. It will consume from your data only for 2 characters, only for 10 characters. But here, the same thing, but maximum is allowing you to enter 30 characters, not more than 30. Still the same thing, if I enter 2 characters, it will occupy only 2. And this one will be 10, no problem with that. But, so you might ask, right, okay, why here you call it 50? Why can't I call it 50 here? So it's fine, let them enter it. If they enter it, it will take more space. If you don't enter it, if you enter short, it will take less space, right? If you enter more, it will take more space. But there is a reason behind it. The thing is, when database, for example, when you enter data, it's fine. It's taking 2 character. It costs you only 2 characters capacity in the hard disk. But the database doing some addition to that. In addition to that, it's allocating also. For example, let's say you have a party in your home today, and you are allocating for 20 people. Right? You're ready. You make ready things for 20 people. So if there's a 20 people comes, it's so perfectly all right for you. If 2 people come, still okay for you. You can give them 8, then 48 is remaining. It's not a problem. But that is allocation. So what database is going to allocate it for you? 50 place. So better to tell the database, no, don't allocate 50, just allocate only 30 for the department, because I am going to enter not more than 30 characters. That's very important. If you feel that that's quite enough, just limit it to that. For example, let's say, for example, I'm going to say your NIC number. We have an NIC number, right? So you have an NIC number. So I'm going to say that's varchar. Anyhow, this is not related to this table, but just to explain to you in varchar. So we know that maximum it's like what is a predictable value for this one? 2002, and then 1, and then 0015. So this number of characters. and nobody will get more than this, right, in Sri Lanka, because this is a four-digit for a year, and this is your I don't know, the month and the date, and these are file numbers. And now nobody is getting B or something like this, so it's very simple thing. So if I want to, everyone in Sri Lanka, everyone will get the same thing. Nobody else getting less or more than this number. So I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters. On this case, I'm very much sure that it won't take more than 12 characters. So I'm going to allocate 12 characters. You got it? You can make it 20. There's no harm, because when you enter 12 character, the database itself will store only 12 characters data on your hard disk, but it will allocate 20. Just a wasting of time, right? For example, you have a function in your home, I told you. You're getting things ready for 40 people. Only 2 people come. Now you are wasting the 32 people's things that you collected for them. So similarly, here, if you can tell exactly what you have, it's perfectly all right. Otherwise, it's no harm. At least the data is coming here and enter proper way, but you're allocating some more space for the database. Right. So now I'm going to erase this line because that's for the explanations only. Now I'm going to execute this line. So I'm going to put the control enter. So very simple. When I enter control enter, I told you only that statement will be executed. So create table departments, and with a department ID int primary key and the other things are everything 0% affected, and then it's a green color mark. So the table is created. So how do we make sure that? Just to refresh this again and go to the table here, and you find the department table. That's beautiful. Now you just go to the columns. You can even see 3 columns inside this table, 3 attributes on this table, and these 3 columns are that. Right. So now you created also, first you created a database, and then you use the database, because otherwise if you execute without using a database queries, we do not know anyhow. If we don't use at least one database, the query will not be executed anywhere else. So to make sure that, or to also to change a connection to the database that you created, you issue this command to start using the database. Use the database name. After that, we don't need to work with the database anymore, because we are already inside the database. Whenever you issue a command, that command will be executed inside this database. It's clear now. So now you created a table. Now, simply what I'm going to do now, I'm going to insert the records inside this table. That is also a very pretty straightforward. It's like insert into, now the table name. So I'm inserting into the table name, okay, and then values, open bracket, and now you type the value that you want to give. There are a lot of ways of inserting a value to the database. Either you can say that this is the straightforward way. For example, here what you are doing, you are not telling that which column you are inserting it. In this method, I'm going to show you the data also first, so we can see it very clearly. And department name, for example, IT department, and then department location, let's say building 5, simple data. Okay, so now I am inserting a record to the department table. I'm saying the values are 1, IT, and building 5. So what happened here actually, this number 1 is the first value in this insert list, right? I'm inserting a number of values here. Actually, 3 values I'm inserting it. The first value will go to the first table, first column actually. The second data will go to the second column, and the third data will go to the third column. Right, now the table is very small, so you know very clearly that very simple. This is the ID, and this for the name, and this data building 5 for a location. Now let's say your table contains 30 columns, and now if we want to use this method, what will happen? Maybe after 5, 6, 7 columns, you will forget the order of the column, right? That will be very difficult for you. But anyhow, so we will see this method now. So I'm going to execute this. I'm going to press Control Enter, or you select them and execute them. It's up to you. There's also another option, execute the statement under the keyboard cursor. I think that is this. The control enter is the one. So I'm entering now, insert into department value IT one row affected. So in this query, it's affected one row because this row is inserted to the table. So let me right click my table, departments here, and I'm going to say select rows, 100 dollar units, and here you can see okay, here I cannot expand this. I cannot increase the font size here because this is what we get. It's too small actually, right, for you. Okay, that's I cannot change it actually. I just press the control space, everything, but no point. Okay, so now we have department one, and the department name is IT, and the department location is building 5. So its data is inserted to the table. Now, how to see the data that we inserted now? Because now I right click on the table and I click right click and then say select 100 rows. I'm opening the table here in the viewer. But in order to see the table by the SQL query, you can simply issue select star from department. So this is the query. I'm going to put the semicolon. So I'm going to execute that. When I execute it, my query window is here. And this is the query that we executed. Select staff from departments, and we get the data here. You can see it simply on the side here, the bottom actually. Right. So this is how I'm inserting. Now let's say I want to insert multiple values. Okay, before the multiple values. So now we inserted one IT and building file. Now, can I insert this record again? For example, I'm asking you, can I insert this record again? Same record. Anyone interested to answer?
Only the bracket value?
Only that?
Bracket?
No, I don't get you. And I mean, already I inserted this record to the table. Right. Now, can I execute this line again? So it will be
No,
inserting
bro. After the value.
after the value means?
Uh, Bracket 1, comma IT.
Yes. Okay, okay, anyhow, right, fine. This record, I'm going to insert it. I'm going to insert a new record, for example. Okay, I'm going to insert a new record called number 2, and then not the IT department this time, it's engineering department, eng, for example. Then I'm saying building 1. So I'm going to execute that. I'm going to select this line this time. I'm going to execute it this way. So insert into department 2 engineering building 1 row is affected here, so it's inserted. So how to make sure that data is inserted? Just select staff from departments. I'm going to execute this again. So now you get 2 records, right? It's working fine. Now if I want to enter multiple records here, like for example I have 5 departments, I don't want to enter it one by one and I want to enter all of them at one time. In that case, don't finish your query here with a semicolon, just erase the semicolon and then put comma. In that case, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring this line to the second line. It's not necessary to bring it to the second line, but I will show you why I'm bringing to the second line, because I'm going to make identical way, so it's easy to compare. That's the reason I'm bringing to the second line. Now I'm going to put the semicolon here. I think this one is not necessary. Just duplicate the picture. So this is how I'm going to insert multiple values to this table and one. So this is, here is just a comma, but here is a semicolon. That means I'm telling them insert all this record at one time. So in that case, I'm going to change it to number 3 and number 4 and number 5, number 6, and then engineering. I don't get anything in my mind that I'm going to put AAA and then DVB department and CCC department and BGD department. So now I'm going to execute it. This time I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut without highlighting and then move the cursor and then executing it. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just click anywhere else in this query and then press Control Enter. So now here, insert into this, and everything. 4 rows affected. So I inserted 4 rows in this query. So I'm going to see my all the rows. So I can see all of them here. Right, 1 2, and this time I inserted a batch. I inserted a batch here, which is 3 4 5 6. So I can see 1 2 3 4 5 6, all of them I can see. First one I entered is IT, and second one is engineering, third one is AAA, BBB, CCC, and DDD. So it's like the locations I forgot to change it, but anyhow, it's not a big thing. The reason why I include the location just to show you the difference in the variable character, it's occupying 50 and this is occupying 30. Why and what is the reason behind it? Okay, so far we are good. So we created a database here, we use a database, and we created a table with the 3 columns here with the one integer and primary key. We know that, right? The primary key, uh, according to the normalization rule or database, the way that each table should have a primary key, either it's a primary key or a composite key. It's very necessary to identify the records uniquely. So that's very important to have it, one of them at least. You should have a primary key, but if you are failed to do a primary key, like for example, a big entity, then we have to have at least a composite key to identify the records inside uniquely. That's very important. Later on, you will see why you need a unique records. After that, we inserted individual lines, something like this. So I'm going to also create that line that just to show you that how we started to work, right? And then I say number one, and it was IT, and then building five. Second line, we inserted one more line to make sure that this is engineering department. I call it building one. So this are the SQL query that we executed before. Right? We executed individually this one, and we executed individually this one. After that, we don't want to enter everything very much. Okay. So I executed a batch, which is consists of 4 records and inserted at once. So now totally, sorry, it was 2 actually. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, right. Can anyone tell me if you are interested actually? Here we had building one, and then I repeat this data here, and I repeat the data here and here and here. But why I did not repeat the same data to the ID field? Anyone? Why I did not? Why I did not say one here and then all of them one? What? Why I did not do that? Right, again, you can think, okay, this guy, okay, why you put number one here and number two here? Why can't you put number one here and engineering and building one? So it's perfectly all right. It should be inserted. Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's
it's
good.
a primary key.
Exactly. So the primary key, once I say this column is a primary key, the main property of this one, the primary key that cannot have a duplicate value in the table. So you have to be very careful with that. They might ask you also in Viva. The primary key cannot have a duplicate value at all on the entity, on that entity. But if you go to the different entity, this primary key, if that primary key comes in another entity as a foreign key, that can duplicate, no problem. But in the main table, the primary key cannot be duplicated. So let's see why. Uh, okay, let's see. We are telling it by theoretically that you cannot insert, right, a duplicate key. Now I will try by inserting the same value back again to the table. Let's see, let the database tell us that it's not allowed. So I'm going to execute this line again. So what happens if I execute this line? The SQL, the SQL command will try to insert this record again to the database, and we will see what database is telling us. I'm going to clear this. Now I'm going to execute this. Okay, now I got an error message saying that insert into data departments value 1 IT building 5. An error is a duplicate entry 1 for the key department dot primary key. So this is what is saying, that the number 1, entry number 1 for the key department primary key. For the department primary key, I'm entering a value number 1, which is a duplicate entry. So it's not allowing you. So whenever you had an error, so you don't need to panic, you don't need to think why. It's fine. The reason is very clearly mentioned here, but you cannot see it. It's too small actually. I do not know how to increase the font size to display it here. So anyhow, so whenever you run your own server, you can find it easily with the messages here. So now I'm going to try this also. Let's see what's happening. The same message actually, but this time duplicate entry number 2 for the key department of primary. So this time it's saying to me that I'm trying to enter number 2 again, because already table contains this number 2. So it's very straightforward, right? I'm going to execute also. Now it's giving the same thing. And when I execute the batch, what happened here? The first record itself, it's identifying as a duplicate. So it will not try the second, third, and fourth record. It's not trying this anymore. Just immediately is returning to me, sorry, I cannot install the duplicate values. Why you're trying to enter the duplicate values, you cannot go anymore. So it stops immediately. It will not try for second, third, fourth, fifth, and everything. No, just the next all execution will be stopped immediately there. Okay, so now we know all the things. I don't need to repeat it. We can all the way and insert one value separately and the other value separately, and then so I'm going to cut this one because it's another copy of that. So I don't want to put it there. I'm going to put it here. So it's like I created one insert statement individually in one command, and after that I inserted another 5 lines in one batch of execution. One line actually is considered as one line, but it's a batch of records. I'm inserting multiple values. This is another way of inserting it. Right. So there's no expand collapse here. So right. Okay. Now there is another way of inserting it. Let's say I told you, right, if we have a 20 columns or 30 columns in this table, 30 attributes or columns, if you have a table, then you cannot memorize the order that you are going to pass the value, right? Here I know very clearly. Number 1 for department ID, and IT for department name, and building 5 is for department location. And it's very clear. Okay, I can simply do it. But if the table is big, that's not going to work. It will work, of course, it's legally, it's right. But the thing is, you cannot say, okay, I'm somewhere else. Where is my place? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, what is the column 6? Then I have to go to the table and check. Okay, column number 6 is a department name. Oh my God, it's very difficult. In this case, very simply, you can say insert into the same thing, departments. Okay, and then now I'm going to put the column name here, department ID, comma, department name, comma, and also the standard practice I don't know, most of the people they don't use. After you put a comma, just give one space. Don't stick this together. It's not good anymore. So put a space after the comma, put a space everywhere. Whenever I type after the comma, I just give a space. This is also in English, right? For example, if you type comma or something like this, you have to give it one space. If it's full stop, you have to give it 2 spaces. Right. Now I'm going to do this, and then after that, I'm going to say values. Now you pass your value. This is another way of doing it. For example, department ID number 1 and department name, for example, XX, and then department location is, for example, location 1. So this is another way of doing it. So I cannot insert the number 1 here. The last number that we inserted is 6. I'm going to enter number 7. So this is another way of doing it. So I'm going to bring this down. So it's easy for you to actually see. Some people, they do it this way. That's also good. They use a tab here and then tab here and then tab here and then tab here. So now you know that's department ID. I'm passing to 7 and the name is XXX and department location. I just do it usually when I work previously in the previous companies that I'm doing it. But anyhow, I'm not saying that this is right and this is wrong. Everything is fine, but I found it straightforward. I mean, the column name and the name. Don't think that this is the way to insert the record. It's totally wrong. I mean, it can be like this somewhere else. It's not necessary to be aligned and tapped and everything. No, simply you can say simply like that. This is a normal font. But what I say to for my eye to order them, so it's easy for them. That's why I did it that way. So this is another method. So I'm going to execute it now with the control enter. I'm entering now. It's perfectly inserted, right? One row is affected. Now you may ask, why did you do that? Right? It's unnecessarily that you are telling the column, and you are doing the same thing. You are entering the value which is similar to this, right? Why you do that? Because sometimes, let's say, it's not necessary to follow the order of the column. For example, now I want to say I want to enter the department location first, right? And the department ID at last, right? In this case, what I have to do simply the department location that is looking for department location first. I'm going to move the location data to the first place, right? And then comma, and then secondly is looking for a department name, which is I mean XXX, and the department ID. I'm going to put down 7. So here they give you a flexibility to reorder the columns. I mean, move the columns order, not necessary in a reverse order. It can be department ID, department name, any order is fine, but you have to arrange your value that you are inserting it in the same order. So the program knows that very clearly. Okay, department location is location 1 and the department name is XXX and the department ID is 7. Perfectly all right. So I'm going to execute that, not the 7, because I think we inserted the 7 already, right? Here's messages here. So I'm going to put 8. I'm going to execute it now. So control enter. So what happened actually? Yes, the semicolon. The semicolon. I forget to enter the semicolon. So it's occupying this and that together. So that's my fault. I'm going to press enter. So now the record is inserted here. First time I had an error here because I forget to put the semicolon in this place. So in that case, these two runs together and it was wrong because without semicolon or comma, you cannot do that. So when I put it, it worked fine. So it's inserted already in number 8. So how to make sure that the number 8 is inserted? Come back to this line and highlight this, select star from departments and execute it or press Ctrl Enter. You can see your records here. I'm going to expand this. So 1, 2, 3, 4 until 8. See the 8 record XXX location 1 location, but still the primary keys are different values. So as long as the primary key is different, it's perfectly all right. So according to my schema conditions, the data it's matching with the schema, so it's perfectly all right. So this is another way of inserting a record. Either you can insert it in one line. So in this case, what happened? You have to follow exactly the table order, otherwise it will fail. Let's say I'm going to test it with a different order. So I'm going to say I'm going to put the IT number first, and then I'm going to put the primary key number 1 second, and there's no errors of my query, right? There's no error marks, nothing is there. So I'm going to execute it now with the control enter. So immediately get an error here saying the error code 1366 incorrect integer value IT for a column. So what it's trying to do, it's taking this IT, which is a string data or which is a character or which is a like a varchar type, and trying to insert that to the department ID and the table scheme, I mean the conditions of the table, the attribute. It's looking for integer value. Of course, this is not integer, so it's rejected immediately. Okay, this is what's happening. So in this case, if we don't specify the column name, what you have to do, we have to type the values in the columns order in the table. Tomorrow, when you move this department name to the department location, let's say sometimes in graphically they can adjust, they can go to the design view of this one and then they can change the order of the column. In that case, what will happen? If you write a query something like this, it will fail instantly. They cannot run it one more time because the column order has changed. In this case, it's fine because this is varchar and this is varchar. So definitely it's okay if I change the location to the department name. Anyhow, the wrong data will go to the wrong column, but still there will be no errors since they are same type. I mean string type. So there's no harm at all. But let's say the age in between these two, and then you switch it off all of them, then everything will collapse. You cannot. It will not work anymore. And this way, we have a freedom of inserting a value by specifying a column order. So you are dictating the column order here. You are saying that, okay, I don't like to put the ID first. I'm going to put the location and the name of the department ID. And according to that order, according to this order, you are entering your values according to that order. So it's fine. It's also acceptable. There are this way. Actually, as far as I know, there are only two ways of entering data. One is without specifying a column name. Second is with specifying a column name. Now, can I, let's do all of us, we all together, we'll do something like this. I'm going to test something. I'm going to enter a department ID, which is 9, which is not available, right? How to make sure that I don't have a 9, just go and execute. And then I'm going to execute this. Going down, the last number is 8. So I'm very sure that there's no 9. So I'm going to insert a 9, which is, I'm going to put my name on this, in this case. I don't like to specify here. I'm just entering two values. What will happen now? Right? It's okay. I mean, I don't want to enter a department location. I'm going to execute now. What's happening? If there is error here, right? And then column count does not match the value count at row 1 because it's still looking for a third value to insert. Otherwise, it's failed. Okay. Uh, so this is it failed because what do you call this? Failed because looking for third value, right? Right. Now, I'm going to use this method now. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to enter the same value, which is 9. I'm going to enter the 9, and then the same thing. I'm going to skip the location here. And then I'm going to also department location. I'm erasing them. So what's going to happen for this now? So let's try. I enter it. Oh, it's accepted. It's inserting. How? The same thing what I did here. I mean, uh, the order. I just follow the order because this is it's not specifying the column name right. So I have to follow the order, which is department ID, the department name. I insert the value here. It's rejected. The previous message is rejected, saying that cannot accept. But now the same thing. Maybe I forget to follow the same value here. If you want, maybe I can delete this record. I don't know actually how to delete it here. Uh, okay, let's truncate instead. This is called truncate main. It will wipe all the records instantly, and the wiping of records, it will not be logged anymore. So this is called truncate. So when you do a truncate, what will happen? If you go and see the records inside, nothing will be there. I just erase everything. Table is empty, and there will be no trace that the data is deleted. So just wiping it without writing it in the log. You know, what's the use of the log? That's when we come to this area, I'm telling you. The log is something that, for example, when you insert the record, the log is saying this record is inserted. It's making a same copy of the record and keeping it in the same. Now tomorrow you modify it. It will keep the old record and it will also keep the new record in the log. Then after 3 days you come and delete this record. So it's deleting the record. I mean, it's keeping a history of your record. In case if you have an issue, oh my god, I deleted this number of records, can I restore it? Yes, you can restore it from the log. Or if you have a backup or something like that, at least you can restore everything back to the database. Now if you use truncate is something very dangerous. It's deleting everything and there's no trace, there's no informations, you cannot even restore the data. So this is what truncate does. Now I go to this place. So okay, I'm going to reorder the way so it's easy to explain to you. I'm going to reorder in a similar way, and I'm going to move my data to back to this point, right? So now I'm trying to enter this, execute this one. I'm going to execute by Control Enter. Entering it, I got an error message. I'm going to clear this to make sure that, and also I'm going to highlight it and execute it. So I got an error message. The same query, exactly the same number and same value, but specifying a column name. And I'm executing this one. I got accepted. So this is the flexibility here. In this way, by specifying a column name and inserting a data, you can insert a null value to system. Because I'm telling them, I like to insert for department ID in the name. I'm not interested about the department location. It's perfectly all right according to the schema. The schema here in this table, schema means the instruction how to keep the data and validations and controls and everything. That's called all of that they're called schema. Here, this condition of the schema, this has to be primary key. So if it is primary key, that department ID data cannot be duplicated. That's the only condition here, nothing else. So in that case, I'm very simply inserting number 9 with this one. So the primary key should be populated with any data. I mean, the primary, you have to give a value to this primary key, but other keys is not necessary because the schema is not telling me to enter this. So it's fine. See, let's say I'm going to make one more thing here for number 10. I'm going to make another statement here, which is number 10. Okay. And I don't like to enter the name even. I don't like to enter the name. I'm telling them, okay, that's it. Department ID number 10. Take it, go. I'm going to execute now. It's accepted again. The reason why it's accepted because a schema is not stopping me. If we don't enter the department name, we cannot save it. There's no conditions like this. So just simply accepting it. I'm telling you, sometime they might ask you in the Viva. In the Viva, they might ask you, is it possible to enter something like this? Okay, so who can answer this? Simply go and see the schema. Is there any conditions? What are the conditions? Primary key. Primary key means this data cannot be duplicated. So first of all, you have to see inside the table, is there any number 9 value? No values. Okay. And now the second condition, since the primary key, you cannot avoid this column. You should give some value to this column. Is there a value for this one? Yes, there is a value. That's it. Go for it. It's okay. It's acceptable. In this case, the same thing. Just go and see in the table whether number 10 is there in the primary key. If it is not, it's enough. If it is, if the number 10 is value is available in the table, that means you cannot insert a duplicate value. That will not be accepted. So this is the only thing that you want to know. So this is also an insert statement, and this is also an insert statement, and this is a default insert statement that okay, this is the error one. So I'm telling you why, because I did not specify the column name here and just enter only two values. So what SQL query is looking for? No. In this case, he doesn't care about the schema. The first thing he's going to check whether you supply a value for each and every columns. We did not complete that. That's it. It's failed. But the same data, I'm entering it here by specifying a column perfectly works. So this is how you have to insert the records. And there are actually, I found 3 ways to do that. So sometimes they might ask you this. Okay. Now, okay, maybe it will be, this all will help you. I'll put this query in the our WhatsApp group so we can test it actually. Right. So now you might think now, okay, so how can I stop if they enter something like without name? Can we create a department record without name? Of course, it's not practical, right? Or there is a department only number, but there's no name. It's very odd, right? Okay, so now how can I stop him not to do that? So I should put a condition, right? Okay. Our condition is department ID is to be there, and the department name you should enter it. Otherwise, I would tell him no, you cannot create it. In that case, how can I do this? Can anyone assist me how to do that? It's interesting, right? I mean, why is allowing to enter a department ID only without the name and the location? Okay, so Okay, so no answer. I'm going to tell you that simply. For the meantime, there are other ways to do that, but I'm going to tell you the simple way. I'm going to delete this top of this table, which is departments. I'm going to drop it now. Now here, if we don't want to accept only the department ID, I can say something called not null. I'm saying that you cannot enter the null value on this table. Otherwise, I will tell you, sorry, you cannot enter the record. I'm going to create this table again because I dropped it already. I'm going to execute it. Now, the same command, I'm going to copy it. Now, after we drop it, you know that, right? When you drop the table, all the records are disappeared. I mean, everything is gone. So now I'm going to say only the department ID without name. So this, I want this to be failed. So I'm going to execute now. Now it's failed. Insert into department ID values. Field employee department name, so it doesn't have a default value, so it's not accepting something like this. So if you want to prohibit him not to accept values, you should put at least a not now. And now the second thing, I'm going to again erase this department table, drop the table. I'm going to drop it down. Now for the department, okay, I did a small. I'm going to execute that again, okay, and I'm going to execute this variable. So it's accepted. I'm going to see what are the values I have within my table. I'm going to execute this again. It's perfectly all right. Now, the value here, the department ID is number 9 and the name is Anushath and the department location is null value. Actually, you can see it when you click somewhere else. It's null value. I don't want the null value for the department location. If they don't enter anything for the department location, I want to call it no location or empty location, something like this. I want to type them instead of null, I want to call it empty location. In that case, you can say default ULT value is this. I think I want to type default value. Default is equal to, let's say, a no location. Here, not null, I don't like to enter it capital. Okay. So no location. Now I'm going to do again, I'm going to erase this department to be sure. Before we just see the department, and there's one value here with a null. Department location is null here, it's too small, I think. I'm going to drop this table again. I'll drop it now. I'm going to recreate it with the new conditions, which is if we don't supply anything to the department location, the default value will be no location will be applied on that record. So I'm executing now, and I'm going here. I'm going to execute this record without the location details. I'm executing it. It's perfectly accepting it. And when I open my table and see the records, now there is no null here. It's saying no location. This is called default value. So definitely you'll be needing this as well. Default value and then not null. So if you want to accept null, just don't type anything there. Just remove this. If you want to accept null, just put it. Or you can say null. That's also okay. But you don't need to explicitly say that null because by default it's null if we don't tell anything. So if we don't want to accept null, don't say not null. In this case, what happened? If we say not null, it will not accept null value on this column. So if the user does not insert a value for this department name, that record will be rejected. It will not be inserted. In this case, what happened actually, I am accepting null because I did not tell anything about null. That means by default, it can accept null. So on that case, if I enter null, by default, this text will be inserted. Or if you insert something for the location, that value will stop. If you don't enter anything, and this no location will be added there. For example, this is the first record, 1 xxx and 8. I'm going to execute this one. If I execute it, successful, I'm going to clear these messages. I'm going to the department table. I'm going to execute this. Now you see two records. First is 8xxx location 1, which is this. right? So we supply the location one is accepted immediately, perfectly, everything is complete. The second query that we executed is this without a location. For that record, we have something called no locations because that value comes from the default value. For the meantime, this is quite enough for you. So this is already okay. Now we created a database and we use a database and we create a table. We test so many things with a null, not null, and the default value with default value and primary key and everything. So now we insert a value and we try many way of inserting a value here. You don't need this, or maybe you need that to test and explore the things here. And then we also execute a batch of inserting values, and then we know how to select our records. Fine. Right. Now I'm going to keep it here because I'm going to create a new file. We will work some bit more how to update the record and how to delete the record. So that's enough for the meantime. Maybe for the next video that we can show some additional things. Right. So now I'm going to create a new page, new file to do our scripts. It doesn't matter either you have to type everything here or you should if you create a new file here, you can also execute your queries here. There's no how. Everything's the same because this is just a place that you're writing your query and executing it. As soon as you execute, that object or records or tables or whatever it is will be creating on the default the active database. That active database, you know, that's a folder and it's expanded by default automatically. So it will be created under testing underscore deep. So why I keep it here? Because it's already too long. I'm scrolling and scrolling up and down. It will be complicated. So I'm going to do it here. So initially what I need is this query. So I better to type it now. So I'm going to say select star from the you see, even when I created a department table, I use capital D. But as soon as the table is created, just converting everything to simple characters. So it's no point of uh, capitalizing and simply. Simple if you want, very simple. That you use underscore. So underscore cannot be replaced by something, and it's very easy to understand. So always use the underscore. That will be a good practice as well. Right. Now I make it bigger so you can see. So it's not department. Why this one? I just want this record to see side by side. I think I can move this. I do not know whether I can move it to right side or left side. I'm still not familiar with this environment because I personally I don't like my SQL. Yeah, since what happened? The record, the the thing I wrote is gone. It's not there anymore. Okay, yeah. So let's start from department. So the IntelliSense also is showing you here that you're trying to enter department. This is called IntelliSense. So I click that. Okay. Or maybe you don't if you work if you like to work with Sondheim, just press enter, so it will be selected for you. So you don't need to type. In case if you have a long table name that you don't like to, I mean. You don't need to type all of them until the end. Just it will the intelligence will show you. Let's say if you have a table called departments and departments temporary and second table called department temporary and department for example like something like this. So when you type department, all these three will be showing you in the drop downs selections. So just move the cursor down or up and then press enter. So that will be inserted to the query window here. So now select star from departments because the reason is I want this to see the records. Now what we are going to do now, anyone knows how to do this. Okay, you can edit the record here also, it's nice. Uh, how to change the font size to be bigger because it's too small. This time now we need okay, mm, font and colors. SQL editor, cell grid. Okay, great. That's the option here actually. In and when it will be okay, cool. So I can see it now. You can see that big screen. Nice, right? Okay. Yeah. So now we see in the grid, the result grid actually. This is a result grid. Whatever the result that you are executing from the SQL query, that will be executed here. Now, in case if you want to edit any of your record, you can simply click edit and then just go. I don't want it to be department XXX. I want to call it engineering. This is also a possibility here. So next time when you execute that, you will not. Okay, forget to, maybe there is an option here to modify this record. Okay, let me. Okay, so this is only seems to be like a temporary locations. Maybe they thought that it will be there. The changes will be permanent. I don't know. Maybe there are way to do that. Insert new row. Insert. There are options here, but I don't know why. Edit the current row. Let me try. So maybe this is, maybe there is a way that I don't know. Okay, anyhow, the main purpose is now it's not necessary to edit the record here. The editing record should be from the query itself. Okay, now I'm trying to change the department name into engineering, but I cannot do it anyhow. So we are going to do that. Now we are going to see that how we can edit the records. I mean, either with the conditions or without conditions. Now, the sequence is very simple, like update the table name and set. I'm going to set the value department name is equal to engineer. So let's see what's going to happen actually. This is what I use. Update is not a very this positions expecting end of line. Okay, because of the semicolon here, I did not put the semicolon here. I did not put the semicolon here, so it thinks that is a continuation of the department. Okay, now I'm saying update department. So I'm updating the department table. I'm going to set department name is equal to engineering. So what's going to happen now? I'm going to update the department table, which is entire table, all the records, everything. Set department name is equal to engineering. So what it's going to do, it's going to change the department name to engineering in the entire table. So this is what we are trying to do. We are not trying to change everything, right? I want to change only for this XXX. So in this case, you can do a where conditions to filter your data. Say, so I'm saying update departments. You can keep it in one line, but I prefer to break it line. I mean, it's much easier to understand. First is update department. Second is set department. So you are setting the value where you want to set it to where. So I'm going to say where department ID is equal to 8. Now I'm telling them update the department table, but set this value where I want to set. I want to set where the department ID is equal to 8. So we know that only one record is here, which is the department ID. You know that's the primary key, and there cannot be a duplicated record in the primary key. So definitely a one record is there, that's 8, and the department name will be set to engineering. So I'm going to execute it. So now the message is update department, set department engineering. Okay, maybe I can also adjust this process and font and color, script editor, scripting shell, SQL editor, to call it 13. 30, change everything to 30. So if you are lucky enough, it will be, but otherwise we cannot think anything. So now I'm going to execute this line. Now that's still the same. Okay, anyhow. So I executed already. So I'm expecting that department ID 8 and that record, the department name will be set to engineering. So I'm going to start run this one. Oh, perfect. So it's modifying that department ID is equal to 8 and it's taking that record and then appending, not appending, actually is updating the engineering data to that. So it's perfectly all right. It's working. It's a problem. Now, what happens if I issue the same command here without where condition? So in this case, I'm going to execute them. This time I don't like to use engineering. I'm going to use YYY for example. So this value, I'm updating all the department table, set the department name to YYYY, but I did not specify any criteria. So what happened when I execute? Update department sets department name wherever code you are using a save updates mode and you try to update the table without where clause key, so it's disabling. Wow, it's a nice features actually. I did not expect this. So here they are blocking me because they are saying that you are updating and everything is fine without the where clause, so all the records will be updated. So and then they are advising me something to disable save. I can put this message to disable the save mode toggle option preference SQL editor and reconnect. Okay, so they have a configured something here. It's blocking me not to do this kind of updates because it's very dangerous, right? I mean, when if we have 100 of departments, they have a department names for that, and if you do this type of update, what will happen? It will update each and every record in that table will be updated to Y. So you're going to lose everything, all the previous entry, which is a correct one, perfect entries will be overwritten by this value. So that's why they are prohibiting me. So in case if I want to do that, I have to go to the setting and first disable that option, come and do this update. So even if you really want to do something, you have to disable that option. Actually, they are for the protection purposes, they did it like this. So you have to make sure that they might ask you, I want to change that to Y. This is okay. If you say yes, that's wrong. So only, right, the previously it was like xxx only xxx. So this was your question. Now let's see the data back. So one is xxx, other one is my name. Now if they ask, okay, the xx, why can I change to something, then you will just, without seeing where to close, where conditions, if you say yes, that will be wrong. So this is how we have to update your records. Or if you want to search by, it's not necessary to search by a department ID. It can be a primary key or it can be any key. For example, I am going to update the xxx into integer, sorry, engineering, but I'm going to say, I'm going to search this time this option, which is xx. I'm telling them I'm going to update the department table, and where department name is equal to xxx, search for that record and change it to department name to engineer. So I'm searching by the department name, which is xxx. I'm updating to the department. So I'm going to execute it and see what's going to happen now. It's also blocking actually because you are using the same thing actually. It's blocking me because it's not the key column that uses key column. So here they are advising you in MySQL to use the key column. That's what we did at the first place, the department ID. So they are telling to use the department ID in order to change. So they know that you are updating only one record. So there is configuration options that's prohibiting me because there can be multiple department names which may contain XX, right? So that's why they are blocking us not to execute state. So usually the update commands, usually that's how it works. And this will fail. I mean, it's not fail. This is updating all records in that table. Or on the table. Or at that table. Okay. This is updating only the department name is equal to 8. This is update. Second thing, the final thing also before we stop today, let's see how to delete the records. It's very simple, the same method here. I'm going to say delete from departments. Okay. Where department ID is equal to 8. That's it. So I'm saying delete from departments where department ID is equal to 8. No, sorry. I'm going to select this line and execute it. And delete from department ID, one row is affected. So the data is gone. So how to identify the data is deleted? I'm going to say select star from departments and executing it. So now is only one record is there, nothing else. The number 8 is gone. I deleted it all. Now, if you want the number 8 back, just go back to the previous column and just search for a number 8. Where is this? This is the one. So I'm going to press the control enter this time without highlighting. Just press control enter. The record is inserted. I'm going to the SQL file, select star from departments. I get the number 8 back. Now, if I want to update it, I can press control enter. So it's updated already. Go and check it. It's updated. Okay. So this is fine. And I also forget to show you the select queries because we saw, I think, only select star from. So also I will include that on this session. In select query, also you can write conditions. For example, instead of saying select star from department. So what happened here? Select star from department means it will take all the record. It will take the department table and it will return. Star means all records in that table. Let's say the table contains 30 columns, so all the 30 columns will return to you. That means a lot of data will come to you on the screen. That's not right practice, but it's okay if you really need that 30 columns. It's okay. Otherwise, let's say I want to see only department ID and department name. I don't care about the department locations. You can do that by doing this. Select. And now, instead of saying the star, I'm going to say the column name, which is department underscore ID, comma, department underscore name from departments. And in this case, what's the difference between these two? Actually, the difference is this. Here, you just put star, but here you specify the column name that you are interested in. Right? I want to see only the department ID. The department name, I don't care about the department's location. So in this case, I'm going to select this one and execute it. You will find only 2 columns. But that doesn't mean that the table contains only 2 columns. The table contains 3 columns, but I am displaying only these 2 columns. Okay. Similarly, if you want to see, if you are interested only in department name, you say, okay, I don't care about the department name. I just want to see the department name. So great, it's okay. But, I'm just organizing this view so you can see the difference actually. This is from department, and let's select all on the perfect alignment. So what is different here? The star here and 2 columns and 1 columns. That's the only purpose that I ordered this the SQL query to this one because it's much easier to see. Okay, okay, I understand. Okay, fine. So now I'm going to press enter, control enter. Now I see only 2 records. 1 column with the 2 records. So department ID is missing there. I'm going to create. This is what I explained to you. Views. For example, let's say you have some people that they are working with you and you don't want to show the department ID or you don't want to show the location name. You like to give him a permission to see only the department name. So this is a query will run for him. It will create a different view for him. So he might think the person who's like, okay, maybe this table has only 1 column with the 2 records, engineering, and then this one, this value. Fine, you don't know, you have no idea about it because this is what they say the external layer, and then conceptual layer, and then physical layer, right? You remember that the physical layer, which is containing a schema and the database object, and the conceptual layers will have a tables and records, and external table will have a views where it's exposed to external users, for example. As I told you, right, for example, the person will, you are giving a rights for him to see only the department name. The other person will have a department ID in the name, and maybe it's you or someone is a super admin or something that he can see everything. So you know that I'm watching the entire table, but this guy he has some additional details, but he have no idea And this table contains how many number of columns? Because he see only two columns according to our conditions. And this one is another view, a different view, which contains only one column. So these two people, they have no idea, they don't care, actually they don't know what is the conceptual layer contains, right? And this is also external view actually, but you know that I'm the one creating it, so I know that okay, I'm watching everything, but not this and this. This is one way of selecting it. So either you can say star to bring all the records, all the columns, or you can specify a number of columns here. This is one way. Now let me go and insert many values here. Call it so engineering, engineering. I want to insert this value, and I'm going to also insert this one, and we have 8 and 9, and that's 7 is missing here actually. Okay, fine, it's okay. Let it is okay. Fine. Now I'm going to say select star from this. So you have this number of records with you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 and 9. Okay, and maybe we don't need 8 and 9. So I'm going to erase this now. 8 and 9. So I'm going to say delete from departments where department ID is equal to 8, or department's ID is equal to 9. In this case, you are using all conditions with where. So you are deleting a department table, I mean not the table itself, deleting from department tables where department ID is equal to 8 and the department ID is equal, or department ID is equal to 9. So it will delete number 8 and number 9 from the table. I'm going to execute that. So it's, I go to success actually. I go to the top, and then I'm going to see my table records. I can see from 1 to 6. So 8 and 9 is gone. Okay. Now I'm going to do a different select values here called select star from departments. Okay. And then I'm going to write the where conditions where department's name is equal to IT. This is fine. So what it says me, it's giving all the columns from the department table, and the condition is where department ID is equal to 8. So I'm going to execute that. I get one IT building. Fine. Oh, good. So now I'm going to also, you have a long query, right? Let's say if you want to see, if you highlight this one, what happened? Only the highlighted part will be executed. So on this case, what happened? Select star from department only will be executed, not the where condition. If you want where condition, you have to highlight all of them. So now, instead of going here at the top, I'm just highlighting this, and I'm saying show my data, everything. So without where condition, it's showing to me. Okay. Now I'm going to write something called engineering here. So I'm telling them select star from department where department name is equal to engineering. So selecting now and executing it. So you get three values: 2, 4, 6, engineering, 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 right? So this is also a way that when you say department name is equal to engineering, it will. Now, a question here. I put a simple ENG. Now, can anyone tell me that whether it will return some values, or no, or yes, and why? Or just watching? Okay, I'm going to execute this one, and this time it's executing. Actually, last time what they say, that's the data is case sensitive, so ENG is not equal to capital ENG, but here it's returning. It depends on how you configure the SQL server, but anyhow, so according to the OUSL, they say ENG is not equal to, right, or not equal to the way whatever you say, it's not equal to this one, because it's capital and this is simple. So just maintain that, because they might tell you wrong or yes, but it depends on how you configure your MySQL environment. So if you configure it that you need case sensitive, it will be working. Otherwise, it won't. So that's perfectly all right. Now, And also, now I'm going to display all the records, which is okay, this one. Right. Now we know that there is a query here. One more thing, that in case if we want to copy this line, so I'm going to just highlight it like this and copy and then come down and control V and paste, right? Instead of doing that, if you want to copy the entire line just anywhere else, just put control C on that. Sorry, in the end. Right. Sorry. I gave you the wrong shortcut. Control D. If you say Control D, that will duplicate the line under that. Okay. If you want to copy, let's say you want to highlight this one, select all of them, right? Or you have to say like this, select all of them, and then right click and then copy and come here, right click and paste. A lot of work to do. So what you have to do, simply say, okay, if I copy this one, maybe I can easily edit it. Go for it. Control D. So you already duplicated that code to the next one. And now I'll come down here. So I'm going to write a query called like. This is what they told us last time. I'm going to say there's no matching records. So I'm going to go back to this area. I'm going to insert the 7 and 8, which is, I call it this one, 7, and I call it is a failed one. I want this one 8. Okay. And the department is engineering, and this is, I'm going to, okay, that's it. I'm going to enter this one number 7. I'm going to execute this number 8. Now I come here, I'm going to execute this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's some records. Now I'm going to say something like this. I'm saying select staff from departments where department name like E. In this case, you can put a percentage sign. That means where department name ending with E, and this means it can have any characters on the front, any number of characters, anything, words, love, maybe 10 words in front of that, but the ending character should be E. So this query will return where the department name ending with E. So I'm going to execute now. Nothing is ending with E. Okay, let's make sure that whether it's really the statement is true. Yeah, none of this department is ending with E. Now, there are some department ending with G, which is ENG, ENG, engineering, ENG. There are 4 departments. So let's make sure that the query is really returning a proper characters, correct answers. I'm going to press enter here, so I get the answers. ENG, 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 and ENG. Cool, so it's working fine. I mean, it will give you all the department names which is ending in G. Now I go back and display all the records, so that's what, then only I can decide. Now I'm going to say another way here, which is A. So here the meaning is very simple. Where the department name starting with A, ending with anything, any number of characters, or even empty. For example, only A, the department name. There is one department name. The name is itself completely A. That will come because this is like a optional characters, many number of characters, and any length is fine. So I'm going to execute this and see. So the department starting with A and A, it's coming here. 2 departments are there with A. Now I'm going to duplicate this code. Then I want to say this one. So what does it means? Before A, it can contain any character, any length. After A, it can be any character, any length. So what is very simple thing here? If there is a anywhere else in the department name, it will return. This is that. I enter it now, it's still the same. There is A in the beginning, there is A in the middle, there is A everywhere. So this two will come. Now if I put one more A, that means there is two A side by side. So in this case, only this record will give you. That if I put one more A. So it works like this. This like you because this is something special here. So you can play with the characters. Let's say you are looking for one person. You just remember his name, something like what do you call that? Some difficult name like Han. So you don't know whether it's HAAN or HAN, something like. So you have a doubt. So you can use this like keyword to search for it. You search for the HAAN, no, or you just remember his name like Pereira, and you don't know whether it's a Sunil Pereira or some different Pereira. So you do not know. So simply you can say looking for a Pereira, and then you don't know. So I remember that, okay, his name is Pereira. Okay. So in the front, I don't care. It can be Sunil or Pereira, Sons, whatever it is. So this one will return you. If you see Pereira in the department name, it will give it to you. It's very simple to search. Okay. And then in the where conditions, you can normally say where department name is equal to engineering or department name is equal to, for example, this one. I'm going to duplicate this. So now it's duplicating here, which is department name is equal to engineering or department name is equal to AAA. So there's three variables. Sorry, two department. Either it can be engineering or department. And I enter it. There are four records, which is one is engineering, engineering, engineering. Okay. So all the fours are coming in. Or if you want n conditions, actually we are going to do that. It's not right, but I'm just going to show you that. So if we say department name is equal to engineering and department name is equal to, that means you are giving two conditions that is completely, I mean, it's wrong. I mean, I'm telling you your name should be Roshan. At the same time, your name should be Pereira. It cannot be, right? This is the combination. I just want to show you the example here. In this case, you don't get any result, right? Otherwise, you can do some different combinations. For example, I'm going to play where employee names is equal to engineering and employee name like this, right? I'm saying that it should be equal to engineering, but there should be n in somewhere else in the name. So this is really engineering. I mean, there are n conditions. It's working with both conditions and equal to engineering, and there should be one n. Or you can say, for example, like this. So in this case, it's different. I'm going to duplicate this also. It's much easier to show you. In this case, it should start with eng. Sorry, it should not be equal. It should be like. It should start with eng. After that, I don't care anything. And then department name should like also I, right? So this is nice conditions. So starting with the eng, and then the department name should contain I in between somewhere else, either starting or the middle or ending. So only engineering is the possible answers for that. So let's execute that perfectly. I get the answers, which is engineering, right? So the select query here works fine. Either you can do combinations of or and everything. And let's say in your table that we don't have something empty. Okay, we have integers value, which is the department ID, right? So also you can write a simple queries here, like where department ID is equal to 1. So this is the type of query that's give you all the department, which is department ID is equal to 1. Anyhow, since it's a primary key, there will be no duplications. So this is not the right table to explore it, but still it's okay. So now I'm going to duplicate this again. I'm saying where department ID greater than 5 and department ID less than 6, for example, 8. Mexico. So only the department ID, which is greater than 5, which is 6 and 7, and department ID less than 8. So that's perfectly alright. Or I can can use greater than equal and department less than equal 8. In this case, this is different, right? Sorry, the less than section, the other side. I'm executing now, so it's getting 5, 6, 7, and 8 because starting from 5 until 8. Or the same query, if you want to do it in a different way, where our department ID, you can say between 5 and 8. Exactly the same query. This and this, they are the same. I'm saying that's greater than equal to 5 and less than equal to 8. In this case, I'm saying between 5 and 8, they are exactly the same. So I'm going to execute that. And that gives me a result 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one also 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are a lot of ways. Even if you have a date field in MySQL, you can also do a conditions between date field similar to numbers. Let's say where the date, my date of birth is, which is greater than equal to 2002 January 5. So it will give you everything. Less than that as well. Okay. So we know most of the select queries with the where conditions. In addition to this, now all the time we are doing star, right? I mean, all the select queries we use only the stars except on the top. The top we just select some columns which is available in the table, right? We never created any new columns here. In the table itself, there's only 3 columns. So I simply either say select star or I say number of columns that I'm interested in. Now, what happened? Let's say they are telling you don't give me 3 columns. I'm not interested with that, but just give me department ID and another column. I want to have a department name with the location together. So just in the 2 columns, but the second column should take the value of department name and department location together. So how to do that? In that case, I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm saying here, okay, I don't need to duplicate that. I'm going to duplicate this. So now here, I'm going to say department ID. That's perfectly all right. That's what I want. Here, department name. And I'm going to say also department locations. See, this is what I call you IntelliSense. When you put departments, automatically drops you all the columns which is available on the table. So it's up to you. You can just move the cursor, or if you want to use with the mouse, it's fine. But I'm not interested to use mouse. So I'm going to use department location. Either you can press tab or enter, it's fine. Now, if I execute that, what will happen? It's coming in the 3 columns, right? I don't want to display this in 3 columns. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to concatenate these 2 columns into 1 column. So I'm going to put a plus sign, and I'm going to say as new value, for example. Let's see what's the output of this. Now I execute that. It's something wrong because cannot do a plus sign here. Actually, in SQL, I used to do that, but here, I don't know, maybe this one will work. Hey, this time it will work. Let me go to the browser because I'm not sure what I'm doing, so I don't want to how to combine 2 columns in my SQL. So there are some functions to do concatenations to combine this, but I don't know whether, yeah, this is what we usually do. Like for example, you see what I say, when I have tried this. So he tried everything, but it's failed. And some people they gave him an idea saying that do concatenations. Sometimes they might ask you. So in addition, in advance, I'm going to tell you as well. So they're saying that use a concatenation function, which takes to a 2 column name, and it will combine this, and it will give you a new column. The column name will be new value. I'm going to execute that, show it to you. So now it's combined. So I'm going to put also one more something like this. So it's combining 3 values into one. The output will be IT dash building, but definitely they might ask you this one because this is also one of the purpose that, for example, instead of displaying three columns, I'm going to display only two columns. So I'm going to concatenate this one. But SQL, you can do it straightforward with the plus marks that will be combined into one column. So this is also a one thing. Let's say why we need this one, because let's say this is the first name and this is the last name. So they tell you, okay, I don't want to see the first name and last name. Just give me the full name. Maybe if you have something called initials and then some names, so I don't know, maybe family name or something like that. So he said, okay, your manager saying that, okay, I don't care about this number of names. Just give me everything all in once. So on that time, you'll be needing this to combine all these values and display it in the table. So that will be easier for him. So it will be, you will have a one field which is combination. But in the table, we have the three fields, right? This is, we call it, what do you call that in the ERD diagram, that we draw it like a, what is it, composite, compound or composite, I forget the name. So that's, say like for example, the name field. You remember that? You don't like to talk, so it's fine. First name, last name, and middle name, or add something like this. It all of them will be combined into, it's like a composite attribute, something like this. So this is, you have to remember that. So now you can say star, and you can specify a number of columns that you like to display, or you can do also something like this, right? And yeah, and also the minimum and the maximum. They told us last time, minimum, maximum, average, and there are so many things. You can do that also. Just very simple. That's called aggregate functions. Like you're adding, summing up all the records. And in that case, for example, here, actually in the primary key, it's not a relevant place actually to do it here. But anyhow, just consider that it's a number field. So if you want to display one more thing that before select star from departments. Something that's interesting here, I don't know whether it's really working for MySQL, but in SQL it's working. This is select count star from departments. What happened here, it will count the number of records on the table, department table. It will give it to you. Let's see how it works. Perfectly, it's working. So it's telling me that you have 8 records on your department table. This is count. It's also aggregate function. Now one more thing that I am going to duplicate this. I'm going to say max of, in this one, the max is aggregate function actually. In this case, it should be integer or a float or decimal or those kind of fields, because you cannot find them. I think, I do not know whether it will work like a Python finding A and B, and the B is a maximum, right? So here I have no idea, but usually what we do, we supply integer type or numeric type here. So it will give you the maximum of the department ID, which is 8. So similarly, you can find a minimum of that, which is 1, right? And also you can do the average. So what's ABG is average. What average does, it just sum up all the numbers and divide by the count of the numbers. Let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it will 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 2 1. And then how many numbers? All of them are 8. So the total sum will be divided by a number of records, and then will give you the average. Minimum, maximum, average, and maybe there are some other functions, but it's not necessary for the meantime. So these are the things that you can do. And also you can, if it is a numeric fields, maybe I can explain in the next lesson. It's too late already, since 6 a.m. I'm working in front of the PC. Let's say if we have a salaries, let's say your salaries are divided into a basic salary and housing allowance and food allowance, for example, transportation allowance, other allowances. Now, if you want to see the total salary, right, for example, your manager says, oh, I don't care about this breakdown of salary. Just give me the total salary of this person. In that case, it's very difficult to uh, display the total salary without summing up, right? So in that case, it will give you a simple calculations. For example, select, right? For example, let's say the employee ID, or that's a department ID, which is like employee ID. And then I say basic salary plus food allowance food allowance, right? And then transport allowance as a new column. Let's say a total salary and uses from, right? So usually I do a from in the next line because I like that way. It's easy to understand. From employee. We don't have an employee table actually. Employee table. So this is just, we don't have such a table like this, but just I'm explaining to you. So you can take, give me the employee ID, and I'm not interested about the divisions of the salaries, basic salary, food allowance, transportation allowance, that's total salary. So it will sum up all this column value per person, per employee, and then it will show you something like total salary from the employee table. So this is also anyhow it's not related here. I'm telling you. So you can, if it is a numeric field, then you can add it and you can multiply it. If you want to multiply, what do you do? Just simply put a multiplication mark. So no more plus. And that have a different meaning. I don't know, just call it like this. Or if you want to divide, you can divide it. And if you want the modular operator, I think it's also should work. Similarly, you can do a lot of things even with the dates. Let's say if you want to you have a date of birth, so you want to calculate the age of it, right? You can do a calculations very simply in the select one. You can say, I think dates diff, yeah, it's a function. This is our date different. So you can calculate the date different from date one to date two, how many days or how many years, how many days. You can compute it as well. There are a lot of functions as well. So basically, these are the things that we want to learn at this moment with the select query, and we deleted the records, right? We deleted it, right? Yeah, we delete the records with the conditions. And finally, there is something to truncate. They did not teach you, but I'm just telling you, truncate table departments. In this case, what will happen? It will wipe everything out. What is that doing? Truncate table department 0 was affected. It's not deleted. And yeah, anyhow, there are small changes in language to language, right? For example, even though we are writing SQL queries, it depends on, there are slight changes on MySQL is a little bit different and SQL Server is different. Maybe if you take MongoDB or different databases has a different behaviors of handling queries. So I hope this helped you a lot, and then you can practice yourself if you want. I can put these queries, I can append these queries into one file. How to do that? Just simply select all and copy it and come here and at the end of this, right? And then I'm going to paste it here. So don't take it this way. Don't think that you should give this one number of space to do this one. That's only for indentation to show that this is the difference between these three types of queries. Nothing else. If you have a doubt in this, just ask me in this area so we can just wind up. Anything is fine. I'm going to stop the recording now.